Oh man, my music stopped. That's supposed to be my celebratory music. Come on, you can do it. Come on, computer. I just want to hear the Red Army choir singing Sex Bomb. Hey, there we go. Come on. This is what was going through my head the moment I saw I got 1,000 subscribers. Exactly this. In the same way, it was very jittery as well. Damn. Come on, it was working. My computer really does not like playing videos while also streaming. All I want is the Red Army Choir to be singing Sex Bomb just as a wee celebration, and is that too much to ask? Alright. If it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. Maybe I'll come back to it at the end and see if it works at the end once I've closed all my other tabs. So, anyone in the chat, if anyone's around, let me know, and we'll start talking about what we're going to talk about today, which is going to be a mix of things, including, just general thanks for any of the subscribers who I've managed to get reach to 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool in my books. Also going to talk a bit about this thing CancelCon, which I've just come across on the internet, which is a bit mad. It's had one of the weirdest openings I'd ever seen for sort of right-wing madness. Going to talk a bit about the Labour Party, because I can't resist talking about the Labour Party, especially when they do terrible things like abstain on a vote essentially decriminalising torture. Gonna maybe talk and then talk a bit about Charlie Kirk, who is probably the silliest bastard on the right currently, and he looks a bit like the thwomps in Super Mario, like the big square like heads that thonk down on people. That's a bit what Charlie Kirk looks like, and he has takes which are about the value of slamming your head against that. This is anti-communist censorship. That's right. That is. I cannot believe. I cannot believe that my terrible laptop is trying to censor the beautiful sounds of the Red Army Choir singing Sex Bomb, and all I wanted was to get to the part in the video where the old man with the big hat dances, and that's all I wanted. Alright, might as well get started on talking about some nonsense. I'll see if this video works, because that last one didn't work, so I might not be able to see this to show the videos on here. I thought I'd try videos again for the first time in a while, so we'll see. Look, great guy, congrats on 1,000 subs. Thanks so much. I really appreciate all the support, like everyone. Stephanie Beverly as well, indeed, congratulations, thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks Colin O. Thanks everyone so much for supporting the channel and sharing it and everything when you have. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, it's quite a nice wee landmark to get to. My goal for the year was to get to 1,000 subs, so to reach that in September feels pretty good, and we'll see if maybe I can get to maybe 1.5 by the end of the year instead, which would be nice. But you don't want to, when you reach a goal and then you immediately set yourself a further goal, and if you don't reach that one, then you get disappointed. Don't want to end up like that. That's Sisyphean. Uh, so I'll rein in any ambitions that I have. I've poured myself a nice terrible whiskey, from that I bought for filming the video that will be coming out probably on Monday. I'll try and get it out for patrons. I'll try and release it for patrons early for the first time. Try maybe getting it out over the weekend for patrons. But I've just finished the first stage of editing that down. It's about Scottish imperialism, cultural amnesia, and Ben Shapiro. So I think it's I'm pretty pleased about it. Look, guy, I'll have that audio thing. Oh yeah, don't worry about it. I know you've not forgotten. I don't need it immediately anyway. I'm still in the middle. I'm still in the first stages of editing down. But I appreciate you recording that for me. Thanks very much. All right. So, one thing about the video that I'll put out this weekend or next week is that it will probably annoy a certain brand of Scottish nationalist a lot. So I'm half expecting, if it finds its way to nationalist circles, that it will probably be the most contentious video, and if it reaches those circles, probably get the most abuse for any video I've made so far because of it. Because a particular brand of Scottish nationalist can be a bit testy, even though I don't talk about independence at all during the video. They can still be a bit, quick off the mark with with criticism. A certain brand of Scottish nationalists. I remember there's two guys I sort of know who run a podcast in Scotland that's about like fake news. It's called Not Another Fake Newscast. It's a good podcast. They like just delve into like news stories and talk about how they're not really, like, whether they're true or whether they're bias or outright fabrications. And both of them are independent supporters. One of them is in the SNP, like in the SNP party. But they did this episode talking about oil revenues and talking about a story that was released by, I think it was Wings Over Scotland, the blogging site. It might have been the National, I can't remember. But they said after that video, they told me that was the worst abuse they've ever received for anything they did. It was just from rabid independent supporters just going crazy at them and firing abuse their way, saying that they're trying to undermine the cause for independence, even though both of them are independent supporters. So yeah, talking about challenging national myths in Scotland can sometimes be a bit contentious and can sometimes lead to a fair amount of nonsense abuse. So we'll look forward to that. I probably won't post it to the Scotland Reddit page because a lot of them hang out there. Anyway, let's see if this video works better than the Russian sex bomb video, because it was the most ridiculous. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a while. This video, it's quite something. Let's see, from CancelCon 2020, featuring such figures as Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager. You know, the big names, those big hard-hitting names in the intellectual discourse. Let's see if it works. Not looking. Oh, there we go. I really need a better computer, man. Uh-oh. The web page is frozen. Let's see. Fuck it. No videos for you today. But it was essentially this video from CancelCon 2020 was opened with this like mad musical number. Oh, there we go. Victimizers beware. It's almost there. Nah, it's not happening. It opens with this mad sort of musical number where they've paid animators and musicians to make this song that's like a children's superhero cartoon from the 1990s about all these like the left wing victimizer squad who seek out viewing systemic racism everywhere they go, like Captain Systemic or something, who always sees systemic racism, and for some reason they animated him to have like a massive hog, like a massive bulge in his pants for no discernible reason except maybe that the agency that they've hired to animate this madness is secretly left wing and wanted to make their left wingers kind of hot. I mean, that's one form of subversion anyway. So they made this sort of mad shit, which was fun, and I wanted to show you guys, but looks like no fun cancel con video about safe spaces for you today, or Red Army choir singing Sex Bomb. And that is a powerful sentence, and it would have been a powerful combination if my computer wasn't run on hamsters turning wheels on the inside. Instead, I think we'll just have to talk about the Labour Party, which everyone loves to do, don't they? Talk about the Labour Party and their ability to somehow keep undermining the already and consistently low expectations we have for them over every week. Every week there's something new that the Labour Party have done to disappoint me. And every week my expectations get lower and lower, so I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do next to disappoint me, but I'm excited to find out, frankly. So just like, was it just 2 days ago? Just 2 days ago the Labour Party, Keir Starmer had his big speech about how patriotism and family values, which is, that's a bit of a yikes phrase to be banding about a party, but patriotism and family values and British values and all that should be held up. We should reclaim patriotism and all that sort of shit for the Labour Party, and that's a bit worrisome. But sometimes politicians do that, and maybe you could look over it as something that isn't hugely worrying. But then just yesterday, the party voted to abstain on the second reading of a bill, on a one-line whip, which is important. Not a three-line whip, just a one-line whip, which will come up later. They voted to abstain on a bill which would essentially decriminalise the military forces from committing torture. And you'd have expected that a human rights lawyer, a party led by a human rights lawyer like Keir Starmer, would have, I don't know, a wee bit of an aversion to human rights abuses like torture. That's one of the main ones. If you're in human rights and the human rights world, like some of the main things that are like bad anti-human rights are things like torturing people. It's not normally something that human rights folk are willing to compromise on. They tend to have a pretty hardline view of torture until it comes to the Labour Party abstaining on a bill which would decriminalise torture. In that case, the human rights leader of the Labour Party just fucking just abstain on the bill. Stephanie Beverley saying Starmer trash talking Boris just days ago, saying he was prosecuting bad guys for years, now wants his own party to abstain on a vote that lets armed forces break the law. No credibility left. Yep, absolutely. It's pretty fucking sickening. The idea. I mean, I think it could to put the most generous spin on it that I can, and this is being pretty generous. I think what they wanted to do was maybe create an idea that it didn't, going along with their sort of their patriotism and going on with the statement that they released just after the vote, which said the Tories aren't protecting our armed forces enough. I think what they were trying to do, what Starmer was trying to do, was, I don't know, like, claim that the Tories were somehow harming the troops, while like make it look like the bill was bad, not for the fact that it was protecting torturers, but for the fact that it didn't go far enough in protecting torturers. And that's the most generous way I can put it, which is terrible. Like, I can't think of anything else that would justify it on their grounds, or I can't think of any other reason why they would want to abstain on this bill rather than just vote no, rather than just vote against it. And you get a lot of people have been saying things like, oh, it's just the second reading, it doesn't matter, it's still got to go through committee stage where they can amend it. And there's quite a few issues with that one, that line of reasoning. First of all, they would have lost the vote anyway, Labour. They have a minority, they would have lost it anyway, they could still vote no on the bill. There's no reason why you can't vote against a bill and then go into committee stage aspects of it. The second thing is, the bill is not really amendable. Like, the issue with the bill isn't that it's like badly worded, or there's like a tweak that needs to be made to the wording to ensure that there's proper like that is covered, that there's no holes in it. That's generally what goes on in the amendment stage. It's not going through committee stages of bills isn't normally to completely change the bill into something new, and that's what would require making a bill like that in any way reasonable for the Labour Party to vote for. So that's the second problem with that. The third being, if you follow the logic of, well, Labour would have lost the vote anyway, so they shouldn't vote against it, then you're basically just saying that the Labour Party should vote for... Why don't they just vote for every bit of legislation that the Tories ever put forward? Because unless there's a massive Tory rebellion, every single piece of legislation they put forward are essentially going to pass, because we've got parliamentary supremacy in this country. So, they can pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. And the Labour Party can't stop them without a massive Tory revolt. So, there's no real functional reason why the Labour Party should have abstained on this bill. The only reasons that they did must have been for like symbolic reasons or for PR. And the only PR I can see in terms of abstaining on it is also really fucking bad. So, this doesn't look good for Keir Starmer or for the people who continue to support him. And the reason I mentioned the one-line whip earlier is that, so in for anyone who doesn't know, in the UK system, if you have the parties will whip their MPs to vote in a certain way, which means they will get them to they will say, you have to support this bill, we're telling you how to vote. The one-line whip is generally just meaning, like, we're telling you to vote in this way, but if you don't vote in this way, it's fine. It's not generally going to be an issue unless you continually do it over and over again. Two-line whip being a bit more like severe, that you'll get a telling off if you don't vote for it, and that you might get a demotion or something if you continue to break two-line whips. Three-line whip is you have to vote for this no matter what, and if you don't vote for it, then we're kicking you from whatever position you have, and if it's important enough, we might kick you from the party. This was a one-line whip vote, meaning that they were telling people to vote to abstain, but it wasn't like, generally speaking, if it was a one-line whip, you wouldn't expect anyone to lose a job for breaking that whip. Yet we have, from the Labour Party, Nadia Whittome. And what's happened here is that she voted against the bill, which is a good thing to do. She's a good MP. She was the MP who she's only 24 years old, and during the pandemic she went to work for a care home. She took a pay cut for being an MP. I think she donated a whole load of her salary to charity because she didn't believe she should be on that salary. While there were other people, while there were like nurses, and while the median income was so low, and she was fired from her role in a care home during the pandemic for speaking out against the lack of PPE. And the care home at the time claimed it wasn't true, but have subsequently said it was. And this is what Keir Starmer was saying in this little bit here. This was during that period when she was sacked for speaking out. And Starmer saying, carers right across the country are putting their lives on the line for others, but they aren't being provided with personal protective equipment they need. No one should be sacked for speaking out. Then, several months later, Keir Starmer has sacked PPS Nadia Whittome, which is a role on the front bench, a sort of junior secretary role on the front bench for I can't remember what department she was in, but Starmer sacked her from the front bench for voting against this bill, for breaking that one-line whip. Now that's weird enough in itself, or it's bad form enough in itself. What else is going on here is that she didn't find out from Starmer that she'd been sacked. She found out because she was on TV on Peston's show, Robert Peston's show, I believe, and was told by Peston that she'd been sacked because her sacking had been leaked to Guido Fawkes, the far-right blog, which has been known as a way, which has become laundered as a legitimate news source, but it's basically a Westminster gossip bubble which does far-right hit jobs on anyone who dares to step out of line within the system. Don't know who leaked it within the Labour Party, but it must have been someone pretty close to the leader's office if they'd known that he was going to fire her. And all of this stinks a lot, not just in terms of the bill itself, which Labour Party seem to be okay with abstaining on, which essentially translates to some form of support for the underlying ideas of the bill, which is supported by their press release saying that the bill doesn't go far enough in protecting our troops, given the whole bill is about protecting them from claims of human rights abuses. But also seems to me that this whole deal with Nadia Whittome has been a way of getting rid of another left-wing MP from the front benches. Because there's no reason that someone should be sacked for that. It's a bizarre thing to do, unless you had a vested interest in getting rid of a MP that was in the front, like that was potentially someone that you wanted to get rid of with having some plausible deniability. So, I suspect that's what's happened with her. I suspect this whole thing has been not only an issue of complete moral reprehensibility for the Labour Party under Keir Starmer, under human rights lawyer Keir Starmer, but really challenges the idea that they're in any way competent. And that seems to be the main gambit that they're seeking right now, to the valence, the competence voting, which is what a lot of people since about 2000, since the New Labour era, competence voting has became an idea that that's how people voted. They didn't really care for ideology. It was about who seemed more competent, and that made some degree of sense during the New Labour era because both the parties were very similar in terms of policy. They're both heavily neoliberal parties, and in that sort of the Tories were maybe making noises that they were more socially neoliberal than they were, but they were making those noises, so there was less of a gap between the two parties. That went out the window after once Corbyn, maybe before Corbynism, that went out the window, and it really became again about ideological distinction. Competence voting didn't make sense, and now we have a Tory party which is, I think it's fair to say, quite hard right. They've taken on board a lot of the like UKIP votes and UKIP positions, and basically being captured by the hard right. And the Labour Party is then, by playing this like competence card like they would during the 2000s or the long 90s or whatever, they're kind of seeding a ground that they need to become almost as hard right as the Tories to make that make sense. Because to make a competence vote make sense, you have to not have clear ideological distinctions. There has to be some degree of, this is about competence, managerial behaviour, very neoliberalised, very managerial stuff. It doesn't work if you've got like a hard right party just saying turning up the racism dial and saying they'll drown migrants in the sea. You can't really say we'll drown migrants in the sea more competently, without making your entire supposedly left-wing facade drop off. So I just taken a wee sip of whiskey there. I always get into this shit with the Labour Party. It's like I've stopped caring about it on Twitter. I've tried to no longer get drawn into Labour Party issues on Twitter, and it's just been like I've come to stream every 2 weeks, and I don't intend to. I normally say like I'll just talk a wee bit about the Labour Party because it's in the news. We've got to talk about it a wee bit for doing a stream, and it's like interesting enough. And then like 30 minutes later, I'm on my fourth whiskey and calling Keir Starmer a dick. But if sometimes you need to vent. What's interesting to me about the Starmer situation in Labour is that his whole pitch during the leadership election, where he said very little except indicating that he would be continuity Corbyn in a way, like Corbyn but with an acceptable face. That was essentially his pitch, because Corbynism was very popular with the membership. The membership of the Labour Party is more left wing than the Labour Party, and that's a feature which is generally true of all political parties. Their memberships and their voters tend to be more left wing than the party themselves, and that's even true of Tories. The Tory party's membership tends to be more, I would hasten to say, left wing. They tend to gravitate towards what we might call the centre of politics, rather than being as far right that the Tory party has ever governed. Probably because a lot of the people in the Tory party are rich landowning arseholes, and there'll be a lot of voters in the Tory party who aren't rich landowning arseholes. Some of them will just be arseholes, just not as big arseholes. So the Labour Party, Keir Starmer wanted to make a pitch to the Labour Party saying, "Oh, I'm just continuity Corbyn with an acceptable face. The media won't monster me because I've not got skeletons in my closet like Corbyn did. But I will continue the social democratic reform. Here are my 10 pledges for continuity Corbynism with my face, including commitment to redistribution of wealth and commitment to promoting human rights," which something again. I don't know. This probably should be stressed enough. A former human rights lawyer should find very easy. This should be his natural habitat. But it's becoming increasingly clear. It became clear to me a few months ago when I left that was a lie. That wasn't something. That wasn't something that Keir Starmer or maybe his team were as interested in, because there has been a lot about how much Keir Starmer actually believes in politics and how much it's to do with the team around Keir Starmer pulling him in certain ways, which isn't necessarily to say he's like, it's not like a Trump situation where he's just uninterested. More or less like Starmer doesn't have the like any overt or strong connections to any policy direction. People around him do. I lost my train of thought there. That was just a long, extended way of me saying the Labour Party's shit, isn't it? That's all that was. If anyone wants to add any more about anything particular, feel free to go ahead. I'm just sort of riffing here. I don't have a huge plan for things to talk about today. Got a few things on Charlie Kirk and looking like a thwomp, but with my computer not allowing me to watch that stupid video on cancel culture or the Red Army Choir, my timing for stream has gone down a bit. Yeah. All right. Let's if I remember what I was going to say there, I'll come back to it. But let's move on to Charlie Kirk for a second, because I want to talk about this square-headed fool. Come on, Twitter, do you? There we go. Paul Singleton. I was trying to find out why politicians who call themselves social democrats seem to be neoliberal in practice. I don't know. Well, I mean, very few people ever have overtly called themselves neoliberal. It's the term neoliberal hasn't really ever, it's not generally used as a signifier for your own politics. That's changed a little bit in recent years with things like the Reddit community are neoliberal, which is the most cursed place on the internet. But generally speaking, neoliberal isn't really a term that most people will associate themselves with, particularly in the Labour Party, where neoliberal is it tends to be used as a pejorative, because it is pejorative because neoliberalism is terrible. But in terms of people calling themselves social democrats, I think that it's part of the pitch to the left of the party, because, like I was saying, the party is more left wing than, the membership is more left wing than the MPs and that the party has ever been. So that he will want to pitch himself, and that's still the defence of Starmer that you get over and over again, is that he's doing very similar things that Corbyn was doing. Look at these commitments he's had. He's really just a social democrat, just like Corbyn was a social democrat, and no matter how many times that keeps being shown to be false, essentially, you still get people who will defend it. And there'll be bits and pieces, crumbs that'll throw to the left to get that, to sort of legitimise that claim. Things like the other day, still saying that they committed to, I think, reviewing tuition fees. I'm not sure if they said they were still committed to getting rid of them, but either way, I suspect that that's like a crumb that they'll throw to legitimate an idea that this is still Labour Party for the left worth to still support, because I think they kind of do realise to a degree that they need the left of Labour. They need people, particularly young people, who tend again to be way more left wing, and by young I mean under 45s. So they need people under 45s who tend to be way more left wing than over 45s. They need those people to go out and campaign for them, to knock on doors, to do the legwork of campaigning. Like there's that story the other day that the Labour Party is losing a bunch of support, but that's good actually, because it's better not to have it's better not to expand your, what was the word? The wording was, it's better not to expand your echo chamber to 1 million people, rather to just have a smaller membership that listens, which is which is quite a mad thing to say for a political party, that they don't want a. First of all, I don't really know if a 1 million member party counts as an echo chamber. Like, it's like saying, I can't believe all of the UK now believes in radical socialism. What an echo chamber it is! Like that's just changing. That's not an echo chamber. It's just a chamber where lots of people like. That's a bizarre thing to say, frankly. They say it's better not to have a 1 million person echo chamber, and to have instead a committed party base of a couple 100,000. And I think stuff like that probably worries the party leadership to an extent, because they must be aware that part of what got Corbynism off the ground in the first place was a dedicated membership base willing to go out and pound the street and campaign for them, which they wouldn't have, which they so far don't seem to have under Starmer. And people are becoming increasingly disaffected. They're not enthusiastic. Like, no matter how many, like, Paul Singers is saying, that just sounds like someone trying to sound secure about their inadequacies. Well, I didn't want a big membership anyway. Big memberships are for you losers. Yeah, you can sometimes. It's not the size of your membership; it's how you use it. That's what the Labour Party. It's the Labour Party now. Yeah. So, like, I think in a way they do worry to a degree about it. So things like talking about getting rid of tuition fees and stuff, and the occasional time you'll get like a former member of a left institution like Momentum starting to work for Starmer. You get a wee flurry of activity of some of the fans or some of the people who are defending Starmer coming out the woodwork and saying, look, here's another figure from the left coming to work for Starmer. Clearly, this isn't as terrible for the party as dejected Corbynites are saying, so we should all just get behind and support the party. I suspect that things like tuition fees would get on the chopping block in an election campaign. I think they would, if not stop committing to getting rid of them altogether. If they won the election, I don't think they would commit to getting rid of tuition fees altogether. I just can't see a party that's being run in the way this party is being run getting in favour of mild social democratic reform. This is a continuity party. It's essentially just becoming Joe Biden's Democrats. It's quite something to see the way that Sanders and Corbynism were both destroyed and replaced with essentially technocratic centre-right managers. Although I suspect Sanders in the US has probably got more electoral weight behind him in terms of maintaining some sort of movement within the party than Corbynism is, because of things like open primaries and the DSA in the US, which is campaigning for sort of Sanderist? What's the word for a Bernie Sanders style like candidate? A Sanderite? A Bernite? A social democrat in the US. So the DSA and stuff, they'll campaign for some figures to get to like primary seats and to get a bigger hold over the Democratic Party than is possible in Labour. Oh, hi Liam. Sandy man. Thanks for checking in. I'm drinking whiskey, so it's kind of like we're chilling and drinking again. Yeah, so I suspect the left is dead in Labour for a long time at this point, um, purging the front benches of figures who might well be problems to leadership. That goes again with Rebecca Long Bailey, who was fired unceremoniously back in May, I think that was. She was fired. And then Liam Garvey, missed hearing your takes on things. Oh man, I should tell that to my parents. I can't talk to them for 5 minutes without someone saying, "Oh God, he's going on again." Anyway, that's a Labour Party. With the Labour Party, that's my fortnightly fucking 45-minute Labour Party moan. It'll return in, if not 2 weeks, then another month. So instead, let's unless anyone has any more stuff they want to talk about, let's move on to big square-headed Charlie Kirk here, who. So the context for this tweet from Charlton Kirk, who has I can't believe this, he is the sort of face of Turning Point USA, the right wing Koch brother funded organisation that goes onto university campuses to try and make them more right wing, or to combat groupthink within US campuses. The UK branch, Turning Point UK branch, is headed by Darren Grimes, who's just a wee dweeb. It's just a wee dweeb that has never been invited to a party. And you get similar sort of energy from Charlie Kirk. I don't think this guy has ever been invited to a party in his life. But 1.8 million Twitter followers. And this tweet. There's a planned, organised and funded effort to create terror on the streets of America. Who rented U-Haul? Who paid for it? Who's involved? Arrest them all. And this is in relation to a video that emerged last night after the verdict on the police officers who. Oh man, it's terrible. I've forgotten the name of the woman that was killed by the police officers. A woman was killed by police officers in her own home from a no-knock warrant. Police officers entered her home while she was asleep and shot her dead, basically, after her boyfriend reached for his gun because he didn't know what was going on. Armed men raided his house, didn't know what was going on. So they shot her and I believe him dead as well, and they were both let off with it. The police officers were let off. Breonna Taylor, that was right. Thanks, Paul. And once that came out, there was a video of some Black Lives Matter protesters again going to a U-Haul van and taking out some signs, some just basically cardboard signs that said abolish the police or defund the police or whatever. And this image of like 9 people going to a van and picking up a sign has caused Charlton Kirk, what is Charlie Kirk? He looks a bit like this is it. That's Charlie Kirk. There we go. That's a better image of Charlie Kirk. This image of like 9 people going to a van and picking up some bits and pieces from the back has caused him to say, arrest them all. This is terrorism. Who's given them money? Remember, Charlie Kirk, funded by the Koch brothers, thinks that it's beyond the realms of possibility that one of those 9 people maybe had $20 to spare on hiring a van. So he saw that video. This was his face as he watched the video. He was like, look at these people hiring a van. Arrest them all. This is terrorism. He said it was terrorism. This was a funded effort to create terror in the streets of America. Do we have that? I wonder if we have the video. the right scoop. I've got a feeling the right scoop is maybe not a reliable source of information. Jesus, what's going on in these? Let's take a. Do I want to go to hell and read these replies? Who keeps paying for shit like this? Socialist. Oh, here we are. So, who's funding these people? George Soros. You know the amount of times that George Soros gets called so that they can hire, they can hire vans to carry your cardboard signs in. And the amount of times I've called up George Soros and asked for $20 to hire a van. I mean, he's got his bang to right there, frankly. People like, fucking hell, what is this thing? I think there's been a lot of Oh, Jesus Christ. George Soros. Someone saying, I think we all know. So just like, anti-Semitism from Charlton Kirk. Jesus. Then I was going to talk a bit about, oh yeah, when I was going through Charlie Kirk's Twitter, because I hate myself, I found this video. I didn't watch it because I felt like, and again, this might be hubris on my part, but I felt like watching it to sort of see the sort of intellectual heavyweight stuff that comes out of Charlie Kirk's head, his big blue head. If this works, what I would predict something like this would be is that I reckon socialism sucks. Is there any aspect of socialism that's actually good? So what I reckon here is they're going to talk about 100 billion people that have died from communism in the past. That'll be one thing that would be brought up to say that nothing about socialism is good. Next, they will talk about the socialism being when the government does stuff. That'll be what Charlie Kirk says in response to anything. And they'll say that when the government does stuff, it's inefficient. So that's what I think this video is going to be about. And let's see if it works. If it does, we'll see if I'm right. Come on, just do it for me. Just work for me. Oh, it moved. This probably won't work. What I could do, I could maybe just play it on my phone into the microphone and see if it works. Let's see. This is captivating radio. Oh, that's what I'll do. After this, what I'll do is I'll play that song from CancelCon 2020 on my phone, and I'll get it, and we can all listen to that wonderfulness of CancelCon 2020's music video, which was great. And then maybe we can finish off by listening to the Red Choir sing "Sex Bomb", because that's all I wanted. There we go. I've got it up. Let's take a listen to what this is all about.
Good at all, like actually is good, or is there any mix of? Is it possible that any kind of aspect of socialism is good at all? Like again, what about Medicaid?
No.
What about?
No. So it's based in collectivism.
Okay, first of all, we've got socialism being when the government does stuff. That's one of the two.
It's based on the idea that I can take a gun to your head and take money away from others.
You just said socialism is based on the idea that I can put a gun to your head and take money away from others?
No, so it's based in collectivism. It's based on the idea that I can take a gun to your head and take money away from others.
Karl Marx said socialism is when you put a gun to someone's head and take money away from others. Which is it's a bit of an odd thing for him to say that. Given that the nature of capitalism, the sort of fundamental nature of it is that you have to work for most people, vast majority of people will have to work for someone or else they starve. And in the analogy he's making there, that's kind of more more capitalism. You can, you've got to work for some. You've got to give them some of the value you generate, or else you starve. That's a bit of a silly thing to say there, Charlie.
Socialism is a creed of greed and of envy.
Oh, okay. Let's listen to that bit again.
Socialism is a creed of greed and of envy.
Greed is good. That was the old capitalist word, wasn't it? Greed is good.
And of societal malpractice. And it violates every single one of the things that I talked about earlier of basic condition of human rights and private property and free exchange of ideas. And to that extent, socialism has been implemented over 100 times in the last 100 years, neo-Marxist socialist ideas, and the incalculable death toll speaks for itself. You have 100 million people killed.
100 trillion people have died under socialism. 700. Actually, I think it's probably closer to 750 quadrillion people have died under socialism. So he's got us there, folks. It would be bad if many people had also died under capitalism, but that's a bit of gauche to point out, isn't it? Sorry, Charlton, your points are not good. Is this working for folk? Is this a decent way to do it? Like, I need a better computer that can play videos. This seems like not a great way to do things.
In the last 100 years, there's something fundamentally troubling and wrong about that. So when they start talking about Medicaid, well, you want to talk about one of the most abused social welfare programs in the country?
Okay, well, that's not socialism.
You want to talk about Social Security, which is bankrupt, stealing all of your earnings every single
Okay, well, that's not socialism.
day, and that we should be able to opt out of before the age of 25, but we're not allowed to because somehow we have to pay into some Social Security fund that we're never going to see. You want to talk about Medicare, which
Okay, that's not socialism.
is $120 billion a year in documented waste, fraud, and abuse. So yeah, if that's socialism, then socialism does suck.
That's a good call,
Liam.
Liam.
Socialism being the U.S. Postal Service, which is bankrupt, doesn't
Okay, that's not socialism.
get stuff on time, completely and totally inept, is being outcompeted by FedEx and UPS and DHL every single day with zero government subsidies. You want to talk about socialism being so good because of the VA? Really? You want to talk about the VA? $150 billion a year. We have vets dying, waiting in line for care. That's government-run healthcare, isn't it? So
Yeah, okay, that's not socialism.
no, you look at government, you see nothing but waste, fraud, abuse, misallocation of tax dollars. I would make an argument. I make this argument. If we abolished every social welfare program
Okay.
and substantially and dramatically lowered taxes,
Okay.
you would see an explosion of private charity and philanthropy that would more effectively and more morally take care of our citizens than all of these government welfare programs combined over the last decade. Combined. And you would see an explosion of people taking care of people.
Okay, so it seems like Charlie Kirk's relying on things to trickle down. I don't know if that's something that. Okay, so. Oops, sorry, I'm just getting an echo there. Yeah, putting the link to that in the. There we go. So Charlie Kirk seems to want to bring us all back to the Victorian era, which was famously great. Famously, lots of philanthropy, low taxes. Although maybe the Victorian era had too high taxes for Charlie Kirk. Fucking hell! What was he talking about? Sorry, that's the stupidity of that is just sinking in. He wants to cancel all welfare programs and remove all taxes, and then magically all the rich people that currently avoid tax will set up a comprehensive welfare system through philanthropy that will fit the needs of a complex society. Is that what Charlton Kirk wants? Fuck, what? Sorry, I think I just fell through a wormhole because that was maybe the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay, cool, good work, Charlie Kirk. It actually made me speechless. That's way more wild than the stuff you normally get. the stuff that you normally get with right wingers, which like the standard, the most extreme neoliberal position in terms of welfare would be like Milton Friedman's form of universal basic income, which has some challenge within neoliberal circles. Folk like von Mises and Friedrich Hayek, I think, definitely von Mises, maybe not Friedrich Hayek, but they disagreed with Milton Friedman's idea that you could have a universal basic income. But the universal basic income was an idea by Milton Friedman to get rid of all bureaucracy, basically get rid of all bureaucracy and just have a real low level of income given to folk for all benefits, a flat rate. And it's one of the reasons why a universal basic income I don't think would work in a neoliberal society like ours, because it necessarily has to stay low so that you have enough competition to get out of poverty through seeking work. So they'll keep it low and they'll keep wages low. So that's the most extreme idea from sort of neoliberal folks that you see. But this seems that Charlie Kirk maybe has read one Ayn Rand book. Maybe he read fucking Fountainhead once, and just decided that would be his personality for the next few years, and made his head swell because of all the knowledge of the Fountainhead. And he wants to get rid of all welfare policies and all taxation, and just rely on the charity of rich people. It's an odd leap, that the idea that like Jeff Bezos or Amazon pay little to no tax, but if there was no tax, they would gladly give away much more of their money to set up charities. Like, what? I don't understand the leap in logic that they're making there. Fuck. Sorry, that was so stupid. I wasn't expecting it to be that bad. I was making jokes about him having a brick head, but I think he might actually have a brick for a head. Let's find this goddamn cancel video, because that's fried my brain. Oh, here we go. Let's find. You won't be able to see the great animation from this cancel culture video, but the music is worth hearing itself. I'll put the link in the chat. 1 second. Sorry, this is a bit of a scrambly stream this week as well. I need to get better at streaming, man. There we go. There's the CancelCon video in the chat there. Here we go. One second, sorry. So just while that video is loading up for me, it's kind of amazing to me that ideas like trickle-down economics have been like comprehensively rejected by most academic studies of them. Like, trickle-down economics doesn't work. It never has worked. No one has produced any real evidence for it to work. And yet people are still banging on about it. It's like the power of ideology, that you just keep banging on about that shite. And maybe one day enough people will believe it to be true. A lot of the time, it's the left who's called ideologues, but these people will still bang on about trickle-down economics. This, by the way, this CancelCon thing is the most cursed thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm getting excited as the as the video loads up. Yeah. Rad! Get triggered!
It's a bias response team.
Bias
If
response.
you've been offended, your feelings must be defended.
Yeah.
Go! Freedom of expression is a microaggression.
Okay.
Here comes
So that bit there, they had two people. Two people in like spandex jump on this white guy and wedgie him, and I don't know if that. A lot of the time, right wingers give off the most like they've been bullied energy of all people. Like they're the most like they've never been invited to parties. The reason they're like the way they are is because no one really liked them. No one invited them anywhere. You know, it's probably dialectical in the way that, like, on one level they were bastards in the first place, but never being invited anywhere made them more bastards, and that tension, you know, produced the uber bastard that the right winger became. But this video doesn't really doesn't disabuse me of that notion when the first thing they show is two women wedging a guy. Two women called the bias response team wedging a guy for some reason.
Angela Freddy. He's always ready to fight fascism with fascism.
Yeah.
Starbucks windows don't stand a chance.
Oh.
Ethnic enhancer.
Oh, the ethnic.
Systematic racism finder.
Sorry, this guy was called Ethnic Enhancer, and this is the guy who, for some reason, has a massive bulge in his pants.
Using the powers of screaming and shame, they win every debate by calling your name. They're heroes who think that they're victims.
Ironic!
Justice warriors.
Yeah. So good. It's so good. I like the idea of making like a whole animated video about heroes who think they're victims by by a bunch of people who have millions of subscribers going on a thing called CancelCon and saying, "Oh, we're fighting against being cancelled. We're the victims here, but these are heroes who think they're victims." So good. It's so good. I'll probably gonna call it a day after this because I think Charlie Kirk there has just fried my head so much. I'm gonna try and find the Red Army Choir singing "Sex Bomb," and we'll leave it on that unless anyone has any more like questions or anything they'd like to talk about, and we'll leave it there. Just a smaller stream, just a wee celebratory stream today. Only I've been on for an hour. That's not bad. That's not a bad stream for especially when my things don't work. But here's the thing we've all been waiting for: a palate cleanser. This is what we need. Sam Spreckle, congrats on the 1K subs. Thanks very much. Pretty chuffed about it. Yeah, cheers. This Red Army Choir singing "Sex Bomb" really is the palate cleanser we need after having Charlie Thwomphead spew some garbage and then CancelCon's Get Triggered video. I think one day, if I have a computer that's good enough to actually watch videos on stream, I'd like to like actually be able to react to videos, to do some sort of basic ass content of reacting to shit that people are saying. Because it's a bit hard to like just rant for a while. Anyway, here's Sex Bomb by the Red Army Choir.
Здесь музыкальная пауза.
Yeah. God, I wish you guys could see this. I'll put the link in chat. Every one of the people is in full military uniform. Oh yes, they have a conductor as well. Look at him, he's having a great time. Look at that. The right wing will make an animated video about being victims of superhero fucking cancel culture, while the Red Army Choir is just out here singing Sex Bomb. Fucking great.
I'm your main target, come on, help me at night. Lust on me, holding you tight. Let me explode, although you know the route to go to sex me slow. And yes, I must
Oh god, that's kind of grim.
to say you are not all mine. Sex bomb, you are sex bomb. You can give it to me when I need to come along. Sex bomb, you my sex bomb, and maybe you can turn me on. Sex bomb, you are sex bomb. You can give it to me when I need to come along. Sex bomb, you my sex bomb, and maybe you can turn me on. You can give me more and more and call for me scar. You can turn me upside down, inside out. You can make me feel the real deal.
I want to know what the conversation was before they decided this, because right now there is an old man who looks very much like Super Mario in giant military hat and military uniform, thrusting at the screen, and it's frankly beautiful. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm very, very happy I can see it. It's just a shame that no one else can. Alright, I'll put this in the chat, and then we'll call it a day, because, you know, I don't have much more to say. So thanks for joining me for just a wee stream, for about an hour. And thanks for anyone who's subscribed for subscribing and helping me reach 1K. Who knows, in a few months we'll have a 2K stream. That would be fun. So yeah, cheers. Here's the link for the Red Army Choir singing Sex Bomb, which I recommend thoroughly that everybody watches immediately, and then watches again immediately. So yeah, cheers. I'll see you guys another time. Has that worked? Has that gone into the chat? 1 second, sorry. Right, thanks, Stephanie Beverly. Cheers. Cheers. Cheers, Paul.